Deep beneath the weight of centuries, a royal secret still eludes discovery, hidden behind the mysterious enigma of the Black Prince. This isn't just a story about armor and battles, it's a puzzle that could reshape our understanding of medieval history. If you've ever wondered what lies behind legendary tales, buckle up, because unraveling this mystery might just change everything you thought you knew about the past. Early life of Edward the Black Prince. Born into the royal family of England, the young prince's early years were shaped by the complexities of noble life in a medieval court. His father, King Edward III, was a formidable monarch whose reign was marked by military campaigns and political alliances. From a young age, the prince was immersed in the responsibilities and expectations of royalty, which included rigorous training in martial skills, court etiquette, and governance. His childhood was often spent under the watchful eyes of tutors and guardians, who prioritized cultivating a sense of loyalty, chivalry, and leadership, traits that would later define his reputation. Growing up in a period where martial prowess was highly valued, the Black Prince exhibited a natural talent for combat. Many of his early lessons involved swordsmanship, horseback riding, and the use of various weapons common to knights of the era. He was also educated in the principles of monarchy and diplomacy, preparing him to eventually rule or lead military campaigns. His upbringing was not solely focused on warfare. He was expected to develop cultural literacy, including Latin and courtly manners. This broad education aimed to create a well-rounded ruler, capable of maneuvering through complex political landscapes as well as leading armies into battle. The environment of his youth was defined by a blending of strict discipline and courtly entertainment. Dinners with minstrels, tournaments, and riding expeditions weren't just leisure activities, they reinforced the values of bravery, strategic thinking, and loyalty. His relationships with family members, especially his father, helped shape his persona, a prince destined for greatness but also caught between the expectations of aristocratic duty and personal ambition. Despite his young age, it was clear that he was being groomed for leadership, with a focus on cultivating qualities that would make him a formidable figure both on the battlefield and at court. Throughout his formative years, the Black Prince's early experiences also exposed him to the diplomatic scene of Europe. His father's alliances with neighboring kingdoms brought him into contact with various noble families, emissaries, and political strategists. These early encounters were crucial, fostering skills in negotiation and alliance building that would prove invaluable throughout his life. His childhood was therefore not just about preparation for war, but also about understanding power, how to wield it, and how to win allies, lessons that would serve him well in a turbulent and competitive medieval world. Training and rise as a knight. In medieval society, the journey to knighthood began in childhood, often around the age of 7 or 8, when young boys entered the service of a noble household as pages. During this phase, training was rigorous yet foundational, centered around grooming boys in manners, literacy, and basic combat skills. They learned to manage weapons like swords and daggers, practice riding horses, and perform chores that instilled discipline and loyalty. This early education was not just about physical skill, but also about understanding the responsibilities and expectations of noble life. Their masters also taught them etiquette, courtly manners, and the importance of loyalty, which formed the core of a knight's identity. Transitioning into the next stage, squires spent several years refining their martial abilities and gaining hands-on experience by assisting seasoned knights in combat, tournaments, and daily duties. Squires often wore simpler armor, but their training was intense, encompassing horse riding, swordsmanship, lance work, and learning to repair armor and weapons, a crucial skill for a knight's readiness in battle. They also learned about battlefield tactics, the use of banners, and how to care for their mounts and equipment. At this stage, discipline was key. They had to demonstrate endurance, patience, and unwavering dedication. Watching seasoned knights in action gave them a practical understanding of combat and the channeling of skills into real warfare scenarios. The ascent from squire to knight was not automatic. It relied heavily on proving oneself through a combination of martial prowess, loyalty, and moral comportment. The pivotal moment was the accolade, or dubbing ceremony, where a squire would be formally knighted. This elevation often involved a knight vigil, and a ritual where the candidate was tapped on each shoulder with a sword, symbolizing their readiness to bear the responsibilities of knighthood. The ceremony emphasized moral and spiritual virtues as much as martial skills. Once knighted, the new knight took vows of chivalry, which included protection of the weak, loyalty to their lord, and the pursuit of righteousness. Their rise was thus both a martial and moral achievement, cementing their status within the intricate hierarchy of medieval nobility. Training and ascension weren't solely based on brute strength or combatability, they also required significant mental discipline and strategic thinking. Successful knights studied their opponents, learned the art of negotiation, and understood the importance of diplomacy for maintaining their honor and influence. Their education did not end with knighthood. Ongoing practice, participation in tournaments, and adherence to the code of chivalry shaped their careers. By mastering both the physical and ethical dimensions of knighthood, they became esteemed figures capable of defending their lord's interests and upholding the ideals that defined their social status. This entire pathway was a blend of rigorous preparation, personal sacrifice, and societal expectation, designed to forge warriors committed to a code that combined martial skill with moral virtue. Great battles and victories. The Black Prince, born Edward of Woodstock, distinguished himself through a series of remarkable military achievements that cemented his reputation as one of medieval England's most formidable and strategic commanders. His leadership during the Battle of Crécy stands out as a prime example of tactical brilliance. Faced with a numerically superior French army, he employed the innovative use of the English longbow to devastating effect. The terrain was carefully chosen to favor the English, who occupied a position on high ground, allowing them to maximize the psychological and physical impact of their ranged attacks. The resulting slaughter of the French knights and infantry showcased the deadly effectiveness of well-coordinated missile fire and defensive positioning, elements that would become staples in medieval warfare. Another notable victory came during the Battle of Poitiers, where the Black Prince demonstrated remarkable resilience and tactical foresight. Despite being outnumbered, his forces managed to encircle and rout a larger French force. A defining moment was his strategic use of terrain and the disciplined formation of his men, which maintained cohesion even under intense pressure. The capture of King John II of France in this battle wasn't just a monumental military win but also a diplomatic coup. The Black Prince's ability to leverage battlefield successes into political advantage showcased his skill beyond the battlefield, a trait that kept enemy forces on the defensive and increased his reputation across Christendom. The Black Prince's campaigns also extended into the wider context of the 100 Years' War, where his victories had lasting political and strategic impacts. His relentless pursuit of French forces across territories helped weaken enemy strongholds and destabilize their reinforcements. His daring raids, such as the famous Chevauchée through southern France, disrupted the local economy and morale, forcing the French to divert significant resources to defensive measures. While these were often brutal campaigns, they underscored his reputation for offensive resilience and the ability to capitalize on moments of opportunity. His victories often stemmed from a mix of valor, tactical innovation, and aggressive spirit, leaving an indelible mark on medieval warfare. Throughout his military life, the Black Prince showed a persistent knack for turning the tide of battle. His ability to inspire his troops and impose discipline under stressful conditions often proved decisive. Despite some setbacks, his victories underscored a martial prowess that combined raw bravery with sophisticated tactical planning. These battles became legendary stories passed down through generations, highlighting not just his personal courage, but his capacity to utilize strategic insight to achieve extraordinary military feats. The mystery of his military success lies not just in victories themselves, but in the enduring legacy of how he redefined what it meant to be a leader of medieval armies. Mysterious illnesses and decline. In the story of the Black Prince, one of the most perplexing aspects remains the thread of his declining health, which seemed to come on suddenly and with an air of mystery that has fascinated historians for centuries. Reports from the time describe symptoms that ranged from persistent fatigue and weakness to episodic fevers and neurological disturbances. Some accounts mention episodes of confusion, loss of motor functions, or sudden paralysis, which have left modern scholars speculating about possible underlying medical conditions. The rapid decline appeared to be triggered by minor illnesses or even stress, but the true cause was never conclusively identified. Medically, the symptoms suggest a range of possible diagnoses, but none fit perfectly, a common feature of mysterious illnesses from historical accounts. For instance, episodes of paralysis might point toward neurological disorders like Guillain-Barré syndrome, while recurrent fevers could align with infectious diseases such as typhus or malaria. However, the combination of symptoms, rapid deterioration, and episodic nature often defies neat classification in any known medical category. Some theorists have proposed that he suffered from an autoimmune condition that fluctuated unpredictably, or perhaps even a rare metabolic disorder. Yet, without modern diagnostic tools, these remain educated guesses rather than definitive answers. Additionally, his declining health often coincided with periods of stress or political upheaval, which might have exacerbated his symptoms or even triggered psychological factors that worsened his physical state. Historical reports highlight how his health deteriorated markedly during critical moments, perhaps indicating a psychosomatic component or a sensitivity to emotional strain. His sudden and inexplicable decline often led to speculation that something more sinister was at play, with some suggesting poisoning or a concealed disease. Despite the numerous theories, no concrete evidence points to foul play or a specific pathogen, making his health story all the more intriguing. Throughout his decline, the lack of medical understanding during his lifetime left many questions unanswered, and his case remains a haunting mystery. The absence of reliable records or post-mortem examinations means that reliance on historical accounts introduces a blend of fact and conjecture. This lingering ambiguity fuels ongoing fascination, as scholars continue to dissect the clues of his ill health to uncover some semblance of the truth. His decline, shrouded in obscurity, underscores how vulnerable even the most formidable figures were to ailments that modern medicine might readily diagnose and treat today. Death shrouded in secrecy. The death of the Black Prince remains one of the most intriguing mysteries in medieval history, not just because of the circumstances but due to the layers of secrecy surrounding it. Despite his prominence and the significant role he played during his lifetime, details about his final moments are surprisingly scarce, shrouded in silence that has persisted for centuries. Contemporary chronicles offer limited accounts, often conflicting or vague, which fuels speculation about what truly transpired as he lay dying. Some sources suggest he succumbed peacefully to illness, but others hint at more sinister possibilities, including political intrigue, poisoning, or even mystical forces at play. This silence becomes even more perplexing considering the period's record-keeping. Medieval monks and scribes, who were responsible for chronicling major events, rarely detailed the fate of individuals in a way that would satisfy modern curiosity. The Black Prince's death was evidently a subject of whispered rumors and unofficial stories, many of which have been lost to time or deliberately suppressed. The lack of concrete evidence, no definitive remains, no official autopsy reports, adds layers of ambiguity. Historians have examined various hypotheses, but the true cause and circumstances of his death are forever tucked away in a fog of mystery that highlights how the medieval world often kept its most uncomfortable truths hidden, especially concerning figures of authority or nobility. Adding to the intrigue, some speculate that there was an attempt to conceal the circumstances from the public or even from the prince's own family. The political climate of the time was volatile, with internal rivalries and shifting allegiances that could have led to concealments of details to protect reputations or to obscure a scandal. In particular, the possibility of foul play remains a tantalizing idea, especially considering the threats and enemies he had made during his lifetime. Poison, if involved, would have been a method to quickly and quietly end his life, but no concrete evidence has ever been uncovered to confirm such suspicions. Instead, accounts drift into legend, with stories varying between natural death and clandestine murder, each adding fuel to the overall enigma. Throughout the centuries, the mystery persists, partly because it allows room for speculation and partly because no confirmed disclosures have ever emerged from the surviving archives. This silence, whether deliberate or circumstantial, renders the death of the Black Prince almost as legendary as his life. Modern forensic techniques have yet to uncover any definitive clues, and the absence of his remains makes it difficult to draw any conclusive conclusions. As a result, the true nature of his death remains one of history's most captivating secrets, an unresolved mystery woven tightly into the fabric of medieval legend and intrigue. Theories of poisoning and betrayal. In the realm of speculation surrounding the death of the Black Prince, poisoning has often been proposed as a plausible cause, especially considering the mysterious circumstances of his decline. Some historians suggest that political rivals or enemies might have seen him as an obstacle and resorted to clandestine methods to eliminate him. Lead and arsenic, common poisons of the medieval period, have been scrutinized in investigations of his death, given their prevalence and detectability in later forensic analysis. The idea is that a slow-acting poison could have contributed to his weakening state over time, which then was misinterpreted or masked by natural ailments. Betrayal, especially by close confidants or members of the royal court, forms another core element of these theories. There are whispers that someone within his inner circle might have sought to accelerate his demise or create a false appearance of natural death. This could have been motivated by political ambition, a desire to shift power, or personal vendettas. The notion of conspiracy is bolstered by accounts of secret meetings, sudden shifts in court allegiances, and suspicious deaths among associates of the prince. Such scenarios leave open the possibility that the prince's death was not merely the result of illness but the culmination of a calculated act of treachery. Some theories go further, proposing that poisoning was deliberately concealed through the use of complex mixtures or natural remedies that mimicked symptoms of disease. Medieval medicine was primitive by today's standards, and symptoms like fever, weakness, or delirium could be attributed to common illnesses, thus providing cover for someone intent on assassination. Moreover, there are suggestions that antidotes or countermeasures could have been employed to prolong the prince's suffering or mislead investigators. This complicates attempts to distinguish between disease and deliberate tampering, making the true cause of death still a subject of debate. The intrigue is amplified by political contexts of the period, where alliances shifted rapidly and accusations of treachery abounded, often without concrete proof. Although modern forensic science has been unable to definitively test for poison in the prince's remains, owing to the passage of centuries and degradation of evidence, these theories continue to inspire debates. They are woven into the broader tapestry of court intrigue, exemplifying how suspicion and power struggles often intertwine with questions of death in medieval history. The mystery endures, shrouded in ambiguity, feeding the allure of conspiracy and intrigue that keeps interest in the Black Prince alive today. The Black Prince's dark reputation. The reputation of the Black Prince, also known as Edward of Woodstock, has long been shrouded in notions of cruelty and ruthlessness, fueled in part by historical accounts and later interpretations. While he was undoubtedly a formidable military leader, stories from his campaigns paint a picture of a ruler willing to employ brutal tactics that earned him infamously harsh labels. Some chroniclers have depicted him as a ruthless warrior whose actions extended beyond strategic necessity, indulging in acts of slaughter that appeared motivated by bloodlust or a desire for terror. These stories, whether exaggerated or factual, contribute heavily to his dark reputation. In particular, the Battle of Poitiers and subsequent military actions are often cited as exemplars of his grim tactics. During these campaigns, there are accounts of enemy soldiers and civilians alike suffering under his orders or as collateral damage of his aggressive campaigns. Historical narratives emphasize that he did not always differentiate between combatants and non-combatants, sometimes allowing or encouraging the sack of towns, looting, and executions. Such episodes cement his image as a leader whose sense of chivalry was at odds with the brutality displayed in the field. To this day, debates ruminate on whether these actions were necessary for victory, or if they reveal a darker side of his leadership. Moreover, contextual factors add layers to the perception of his reputation. The medieval setting was one where violence was often an accepted part of warfare, yet the Black Prince's actions stood out even by those standards. Chroniclers from opposing sides or rival nations often depicted him in exaggerated terms, emphasizing his cruelty to serve political or propagandistic ends. For instance, accounts from the French perspective sometimes accused him of acts that bordered on atrocities, further fueling the myth of a villainous figure. This collective memory has persisted, influencing how he is portrayed in popular culture and historical discourse, where his martial prowess is sometimes overshadowed by notions of barbarity. Yet, some modern historians argue that the so-called dark reputation might be a mixture of propaganda, misinterpretation, and the harsh realities of medieval warfare. They point out that medieval soldiers often engaged in brutal practices that were not unique to him, and that his reputation may have been selectively amplified to tarnish his legacy. Still, the enduring history of his ruthlessness, whether fully justified or not, adds a compelling layer to understanding his character. The ambiguity surrounding his true nature invites ongoing discussion, making the Black Prince's dark reputation a fascinating tapestry woven from legend, fact, and viewpoint. His enduring legend in English history. The Black Prince, born Edward of Woodstock, has remained a figure shrouded in legend largely because of the combination of his military prowess, charismatic leadership, and the aura of mystery that surrounds his persona. His reputation as a fearless and strategic commander during some of the most tumultuous conflicts of medieval England cemented his place in history. Tales of his daring exploits in battle, especially at Crécy and Poitiers, have been exaggerated and romanticized over centuries, transforming him into a symbol of chivalry and martial excellence. His iconic black armor and the nickname, the Black Prince, evoke imagery of a formidable knight cloaked in darkness, a persona that has persisted in stories and popular culture. Beyond his battlefield achievements, his enduring legend also hinges on the cultural and political significance of his role within the royal family. As the eldest son of King Edward III, he represented the hopes of a kingdom embroiled in ongoing wars. His death before reaching the throne added an element of tragic destiny to his story, fueling speculation about what might have been had he survived longer. This what-if narrative has been fertile ground for historians, writers, and dramatists who see in him the idealized image of a monarch in waiting cut short. The aura of tragedy surrounding his early death helped elevate his myth-making, turning him into a romantic figure whose potential never fully materialized. His legacy is also reinforced by the legendary status of his military campaigns and the impact they had on shaping medieval English warfare. His leadership qualities, courage, tactical innovation, and unwavering loyalty, are highlighted in countless chronicles and military histories. For example, the victory at the Battle of Crécy, often called a defining moment in medieval warfare, is frequently associated with the Black Prince's tactical decisions and personal bravery. Despite dying young, his reputation endured because of these extraordinary feats, which exemplified the ideals of knighthood that resonated throughout generations. His influence on subsequent military leaders, and the way he embodied the spirit of chivalry, have kept his story alive in both scholarly circles and popular legend. Finally, the mystique of the Black Prince is perpetuated by the enduring fascination with the man behind the legend, his personality, motives, and the personal sacrifices he made. Artifacts associated with him, such as armor, paintings, and his influence on literature and poetry, continue to inspire curiosity. His name conjures images of the romanticized medieval knight, moral hero, and tragic prince, a powerful archetype that continues to evoke admiration and intrigue. Over centuries, this blend of history, myth, and cultural symbolism has ensured that the Black Prince remains one of the most compelling figures in the story of England's past. And so, the enigma of the Black Prince continues to captivate us all. We've uncovered intriguing clues about his identity, the mysterious circumstances surrounding his death, and the lasting impact he left on history. If you found yourself hooked by this story, you're not alone. It's a mystery that keeps evolving, sparking new theories and questions with each discovery. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the shadows of history. If you're eager to explore more secrets, intriguing legends, and forgotten stories, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for our upcoming videos. We'll delve even deeper into the mysteries that time almost forgot. Until then, keep your curiosity alive and your imagination open. You never know what secrets the past might reveal next.